Chapter 25. Would you please visit my home? Dennis and I awake hours before sunrise and hike 700 meters in elevation from Aguas Calientes, Peru to Machu Picchu. My knees grind as I walk up the uneven stone staircase that cuts through the road's switchbacks. We're the first to enter the park. It's dark and foggy. We can't see the city and the signpost has fallen over. We continue trudging up the mountain, searching for the lost city of the Incas. I think we're lost too, I say. Frustrated, we sit on some boulders and wait for the fog and rain to clear. It's hard to believe the Incas built a palace to worship the sun here, Dennis says. Hundreds of years ago, as the winter solstice approached and the sun appeared to disappear more every day, an Incan priest would perform a ceremony tying the sun to a rock to keep it from vanishing forever. After an hour, the fog begins to evaporate and we're surprised to glimpse the Incan city far below us. We're giving tantalizing views of Machu Picchu as the fog flows over the ruins like a river and the sun spotlights emerald green patches of grass in the jumbled stone ruins. The mountains form the silhouette of a noble face lifted towards the sun. The city terraces resemble teeth, and Machu Picchu appears as if it's being born from the mouth of ancient Mother Nature. As the numbing fog dissipates, I feel born from limbo. The mountains cradle me in their nook. The sun tickles my skin. The hairs on my arm flutter in a breeze. A creek trickles. Leaves rustle. And in the distance, someone, maybe the mountains themselves, plays the pan flute. I break our speechless awe. Is Machu Picchu built here because this is a sacred site full of spiritual energy? Or is it just the beauty of nature that's inspiring? Many people believe they're closer to God on the top of mountains. Perhaps we can look down and see how small and insignificant we are, says Dennis. Indeed, the whole city occupies a tiny plateau, and the hordes of tourists in the llamas, Incan lawnmowers, are colorful dots. A few days later, we cycle away from the tourists and their entourage of beggars. We traverse the Alto Plano, a plateau at an average of 4,000 meters in elevation in the Andes Mountains. Soppy scrub brush carpets the ground and sweeps up the side of the distant black mountains, their leaves turning from a green to yellow as they struggle with the attitude. My body feels like a rusty gate. My head throbs from the thin air. I'm unable to eat cookies and cycle at the same time without gasping. My knees are weak from Machu Picchu. My lips are cracked and bleeding from the dry air. My intestines have been burning for weeks. Unbeknownst to me, they're riddled with acute salmonella intestinitis that will mutate into irritable bowel syndrome and plague me for years. I've lost over 20 kilograms. My heart aches with loneliness. And I wonder if we've seen the only thing worth seeing in Peru. After an emergency pit stop, we pitch camp near a creek and remain undiscovered until sunset. The owner shouts at us from across the creek. I reluctantly get out of my warm sleeping bag and push through the tall, wet grass towards the creek. His Spanish accent is very thick and Dennis keeps telling him that we'll leave. No problemo. That we didn't know it was his pasture. Finally, he conveys that we're welcome and that he only wanted to invite us to breakfast. I'm honored to have been invited to break bread with families in almost every country I visited, ironically, most often by the poorest of people. Their ostensible motivations vary: custom, honor, curiosity, friendship, pride, showmanship, even guilt or dishonesty. But more fundamental than all of these reasons, people seem to value, more than anything, sharing their lives. Back home, as I was preparing for my trip, I had doubt atop of doubts and felt I had to make a decision between the material world, career, house, retirement, stock portfolio, or living my dream. So I thought to myself, what would it be like to have all the riches of the world, but no friends, no lovers, no experiences, no memories? After a cold, wet night, I'm anxious for a warm breakfast to bring me back to life. Dennis and I push our bikes through the damp grass and drizzle towards their mud house. Most structures in Peru are made of mud and straw bricks with thatched roofs. I wonder how they don't melt in the rain. We're greeted by a smiling mother, her teenage son, and a shy girl who falls over trying to hide her smile. The girl is barefoot and the adults wear sandals made out of old car tires and drive belts. Their feet are gray and swollen with toenails falling out. It seems they've been waiting for hours. The husband has already left to shepherd some sheep to pasture. Their house, I nearly humiliate myself by referring to it as their barn, is the size of an average bedroom with small windows. An adjacent fence, built of stones with mud mortar, houses the sheep. Outside the fence, cattle are tied to rocks that break through the muddy ground. To enter the small door, we have to stoop and turn sideways, step over an uneven dirt floor and past walls 30 centimeters wide. Inside it's very dark, and I can barely see the musty bed that our host invites us to sit on. As my eyes adjust, I notice the inside of the house looks similar to the outside. I expected it to be faced with plaster or paint and full of knickknacks. Instead, the walls are decorated with farm tools hanging from wooden pegs. The roof has several holes, but their home is dry and warm and smells comfortingly of moist earth and tangy dung. The woman wears the typical garments of the indigenous people, a bowler hat, stockings, and many layers of dresses and shirts handmade from colorfully woven and embroidered fabrics. She prepares our breakfast in the steaming kitchen. We're soon given a bowl of soup that looks like tripe. In undeveloped countries, many people keep adding ingredients and reheating their soup indefinitely. Most soups are served lukewarm with soggy noodles and mysterious meats and vegetables. I'm afraid my stomach won't tolerate a piece of tripe that has dodged the ladle for months. During lunch yesterday, the woman had a plate of gutted fish swarmed in flies on display for her customers, and when I ate some, it was either that or starve. I prayed that all the germs and larvae were fried dead. For dessert, I had some fruit. The vendors rotate the fruit only fast enough to give you one near, but not quite, spoiled, while perfectly ripe fruit is left for next week's customers. I take a tentative sip, afraid to insult my host. It's a salty beef broth with dried potatoes. The starchy broth quickly soaks up the acid in my stomach. The second course is a cup of tea made from coca leaves, the same leaves used to manufacture cocaine. It provides a slight buzz like coffee and is very soothing on my intestines and relieves my head of altitude sickness. While we eat, the stout woman sits beside the bed on a pile of cow dung used to fuel the stove. She frequently stands and squats in front of us with impressive strength and agility and yells, as though the increased volume will help our understanding. Her accent is almost indecipherable, and I wonder if she's speaking a mixture of Spanish and Quechua. They tell us that many people in the area don't have enough money to feed themselves. I doubt this family has any money, simply sheep and cattle for barter. Even an empty soda bottle is valuable to them. I've seen them used for anything from storing valuable papers to salt shakers with holes poked in the cap. We're flattered to receive their hospitality. They give us the only thing they have to give, food and companionship. Dennis and I are unsure how to repay their kindness. Just owning bicycles, it's obvious that we're rich men by comparison. We debate giving them money, pens, or candy, but we don't want to nullify their hospitality, turn them into beggars, or rot their teeth. They have no toothbrushes or dentists here. So we settle for a simple handshake and mucho gracias. Judging by their smiles, they're very happy. To me, they're more beautiful and inspirational than Machu Picchu or Volcan Paracutin, which we rode past in Mexico without even realizing it was a natural wonder of the world. Dennis says, "Just think of the story they'll have to tell their neighbors."